Many of America's finest track and field athletes will compete in the AT&T USA Indoor Track and Field Championships from Boston on ESPN2 Sunday, February 24th at 5 o'clock Eastern. For more information, log on to ESPN.com. Next event on the track, the Adidas Men's Mile. And we've got a good one for you. Bernard Lagat setting that meet record and American record 3 years ago. Steve Sherer of the U.S. with a 3:56 flat stunner recently, and he is here racing. First time I've had a chance to see him, Larry.
I agree, Dwight, and it reminds me of Nick Simmons a year ago. Steps on a track in the state of Washington, runs his first mile indoors ever, 3:56. This man did the same thing. Steps on a track indoors, 3:56 in Seattle, same track.
And the old veteran Kevin Sullivan of Canada.
In high school, ran a sub-4-minute mile in Canada. One of the few to ever do that. Either in Americans, only 3 of the 4 have done it now, and he did it in Canada when he was just 17 years of age. A good 16 years ago. He's still got the passion and running very, very well under Coach Julie Henner.
And here is the field. And we've had a couple of scratches, but it's still a very fine field and an actually large one. I always worry when it's a little bit larger because of the early going. They get a little bit close up in front of each other. Nick Willis, of course, of New Zealand, a fine runner from Michigan, as well as Pablo Solares, who ran well in the Boston meet 3 weeks ago. 9 runners in this Adidas Men's Mile.
Willis from New Zealand, and that is he right now. Had a great career, won the NCAA Indoor Championship right here in 2005 at 1,500 meters from Michigan. And a terrific talent, ran 4:01 in high school when he was down in New Zealand, and by his own admission, very lightly trained in high school in New Zealand.
And Pablo Solares of Mexico, who ran a very fine race on that track up in Boston, which is much more suited for the milers and maybe even 800-meter runners. This track is specifically great for 200-meter, 400-meter athletes. And then Steve Sherer, who I'm very anxious to see, and I'm certain all these runners are anxious to see him as well.
Yeah, he's had actually a very good career running 800 meters and has moved up to the mile. He's run 3:41 for 1,500 meters outdoors, but his best indoor mile is just under 4:02 prior to that 3:56 bomb that he dropped here. And he's pretty much self-coached. Isn't that pretty amazing? No one's tucked him under his wing yet.
In the yellow jersey, that's Josephat Boit of Kenya, who will do the rabbiting. Make sure they get themselves all spaced out so nobody goes down. That's the one thing you worry about indoors when you have a larger field. Boaz Lalang of Rend Community College. They're tucking in behind the rabbit.
Lalang, a late entry here from Rend Lake Community College. They've got a good distance program and a number of Kenyans running for that community college in Illinois. Solares running in 3rd, and Rob Meyers, who lost the Boston race by 1/100th of a second, is in 4th place.
Steve Sherer way back in the back next to last. Nick Willis now moving him and making so he is last. He tried to work out with Frank Gagliano, Gags, for the farm team, and it didn't quite work out. Sometimes that doesn't happen, and as you mentioned, pretty much self-coached, which is awfully tough for a middle distance runner to do.
Sophomore John Kosgei from LSU slides into 3rd place, and now Solares is back in 4th. So we have Kenya up there, 57.2 for the first 440 yards. This being a mile run is what they're clocked in.
And Sherer makes a bold move all the way from last up into 3rd place now. Didn't like it back there. So Boyd continuing to do the rabbiting honors. I don't know if they wanted to go out quite that fast.
And now Nick Sullivan, correction, I was thinking Kevin Sullivan and Nick Willis. Nick Willis has moved up now into 4th place. He ran 3:58 on the slow Madison Square Garden track at the Milrose Games. Very fine time there. Willis, I think everybody, whoever's up in contention with a lap or 2 to go, will have to contend with Nick Willis.
Of course, Nick Willis being from New Zealand, they are in their summer season, and they and the Australians running a lot down under. So normally very, very fit, as we saw Buster Mottram run very well in both Boston and in New York. 1:57.91, so a slowed down second 400 meters, but still an extremely honest pace.
It absolutely is, Dwight, and they ran 60 points for the second quarter of this race. And now it's beginning to take shape with Lalang, who's a 1:47 800-meter runner, The young man from Kenya running for Rend Lake Community College has got the lead. Sherer is on his shoulder.
And Sherer decides he would like the lead, and Nick Willis is going right with him. Sullivan also wanting to stay in touch as Lalang drops back to third. And Willis going to see what this guy is made of. Sherer out there in the lead, whether he wants to be or not, he is. And Willis right there looking very comfortable, arms nice and low, well within himself.
Willis has very good explosive speed. He can get into high gear in about 3 or 4 steps. And he's dangerous to have off your shoulder here. Coming up to the 3/4 mark of this race in 2:58.27 seconds.
So the field, everybody really still in it as Sherer continues to lead over Willis. Willis now making a move on the backstretch up to his shoulder. Is Sherer smart enough to fight him off? No. Willis now will take the lead, followed by Sherer. Lalang hanging on in third, and Sullivan having to get some room to race with Pablo right behind him in 5th. 1 lap remaining with Nick Willis leading it.
Willis is in excellent shape based upon his early races this year, and he's got his heart out, obviously, aiming for Beijing.
And Willis has gapped Sherer by about 8 meters at this point and making it longer. Willis has not even really moved his arms that much to drive in this last 100 meters. It's Willis pulling away. Kevin Sullivan now challenging for second place. Sherer does not hear him or see him coming. It's going to be Willis and Sullivan in full sprint. He will pass Sherer down the home stretch. And Sherer will hang on, looks like barely for third place, but it was all Nick Willis as Rob Meyers tried to get up there and grab third from Steve Sherer. Unofficially 3:55.93 for Willis, so a very fine race and made largely possible by that man, Steve Sherer, taking over the duties.
Right, and that is, Dwight, the fastest time in the world. Steven Sherer had it before.